on the shores of the Mississippi River with Liv Tyler. Every time, Liv, I call you Liv Tyler. It's Liv Hayward. I'm Rick James. Liv Hayward's by my side. We are on the banks of the Mississippi River with iRacing's Gateway Arch in the distance. It is the 11th round of the ABN Champ Car Series. Liv, before I screw this up any further, welcome to the other side of the Mississippi River. What town is this track based in? Because it's not on the Missouri side of St. Louis, is it?
No, it's I think it was Madison, Illinois. I think was what it was.
I think that's it. Noah Belleville will know if hopefully he ends up winning this poll, and we can talk to him here in a moment. But it is Noah Belleville's home track. I don't know if we have any other Missouri pilots in the running tonight, but Noah Belleville will be one of the hometown flavors of the evening. And practice, the 40-minute practice, is in its waning moments here. Just a few minutes remain from iRacing's WWT. Nick Pressey at the top of the tree, Tucker Sawyer sitting in second, and Missouri's Noah Belleville running third right now in the running order. This is the 11th of 20 races on the schedule, so we are officially on the back nine. Next race is going to be the Bluegrass 300 at Kentucky, and then the Grand Prix of Ohio at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course just a couple of weeks after that. Looking at the other upcoming races in ABN, we were talking about the Michigan Speedway, the US 500 as well. And Liv, these are all the Champ Car World Series races as well. So we're going to take a break after this race here, and then in 2 weeks we'll be at Kentucky. 3 weeks, and then it's another break after Kentucky. Is that right? Because we're making up for that break in the schedule.
Yeah, and the break in the schedule for next week is because we get the 25 Season 3 patch to iRacing. We're getting a whole bunch of new content, and the updates include both this racetrack and, of course, a brand new physics refresh for the Dallara IR18. And so those next 3 rounds before the summer break are really going to test the drivers, because they're going to have to be on their toes. They're going to have to learn a lot about these cars, including, potentially, for Mid-Ohio, how to drive them in some slightly less favorable conditions.
Speaking of conditions, we started this practice session in the sunshine. We're going to end it under that cloudy sky. From my angle, that sky looks lovely. If you just tuned in, practice winding down to a close. We're going to get our 5-minute qualifying session underway, another 4-lap qualifying session, and Liv, it's going to be the best of those 4 laps, correct?
Yeah, it's going to be who can get the best 1.25 mile around this place, and it's going to be a little bit interesting because this track is one that prioritizes tire heat, and especially in these conditions down in the sort of 80 Fahrenheit range that it currently sets, it could be that drivers will take all 4 of those laps in one attempt to just try and continually build up the heat in the tires and get that perfect lap on the 4th and final attempt. That'd be pressure on if that is the case, but with 30 seconds left in our practice session, we are about to find out.
Where did Edson Santos come from, by the way? I don't know if you were watching, but he in the beginning of practice, I didn't see him anywhere near the top of the charts, and now just miraculously finds himself second in the running order, 1/100th of a second behind Nick Pressey as well. So now I guess we have a new challenger as our 4 minutes are about to begin for this qualifying session.
Yeah, and that is going to come down to putting in those qualifying laps. There's a different setup for the qualifying runs compared to the typical race setup. It's got a little bit less downforce because you're not going to have to deal with that dirty air, and it means, as well as lower fuel load, of course, you are going to be cutting through a little bit better. But it looks like we have, in fact, jumped forward a day. We're now in the evening of Tuesday, June the 3rd, here in Madison, Illinois. And so for the qualifying runs, it'll be a little bit hotter and a little bit more challenging for our drivers.
You know, that's actually, I was wondering what in the world just happened with the lights, because it just miraculously got brighter here. So this is the next day, apparently, and I'm noticing here on my screen, Liv, that the weather advancement is set to 2x. So through the magic of television, the sunlight is going to advance 2 times faster than normal.
Yeah, really emphasizing the track evolution that comes here. This is the second longest race on the real life calendar, typically 260 laps that they run here. We're running 150, but we're speeding through it so that we get that full progression from the day into the night. And of course that starts with a nice afternoon evening qualifying session. Christina Ryan sets her first lap but is beaten by Noah Belleville, a hometown hero, and she's going to reset very quickly, in fact, as is Noah. So some drivers not going for those long runs. We'll see what Jesse Francisco can do on lap number 2 instead. Or people maybe going for a couple of quick attempts instead.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where these attempts are going to end up, but this oval is so unique because in traffic, the oval almost races like a short track, but the corners itself with the rumble strips gives you the feel of a road course, and they're so long, these corners, and so relatively flat. For me, this track is not on my favorites list. I could never get a rhythm here, but I suppose that's what makes it so challenging.
Yeah, and I think the most challenging thing about it is the difference between the two ends of the racetrack. It is higher banked in turns 1 and 2, but a much tighter radius. And then turns 3 and 4, it's about 9 degrees of banking instead, but much wider. And it actually means that you can typically carry it full throttle as long as you've got the tools set to be a little bit tighter. You've got to be constantly on the adjustments, the weight jacker, those anti-roll bars, to make sure that you can get the rotation through 1 and 2, but then adjust so you don't spin out in turns 3 and 4.
150 laps is what we're doing tonight?
Yep, 150, so that would be 190-ish miles, I think.
You go ahead and do the math. I am not good at math.
It's 300 kilometers, which I know we were talking about pre-race is probably not what you wanted to hear, but that's the distance of the oval races here, and so that adds up to just about 150 laps, with this track being around 2Ks. Edson Santos has gone fastest and is now going to actually roll to a stop, unfortunately, with a 24.444. Can Nicholas Pressey make that jump forward? Your current championship leader, who has taken quite a big launch. His lap 1 wasn't very quick, but I think it's setting up for the rest of the run. Still not impressed on lap number 2 there. He's got to find something as the tyres bed in here.
I think, Nick, if he doesn't find something by this 3rd lap, he's going to need to start thinking about what the plan's going to be for the race. I think my prediction is going to be that a lot of drivers are going to end up retiring due to mistakes, lack of concentration, because with the exit of these corners being so flat, especially out of turn number 4, if you don't get all the grip or all the rotation out of the corner, it's game over for you.
Yeah, that turn 2 wall can very easily break a wheel if you fly up to it a little bit too quickly. And that is going to be the main concern for these drivers as they get through the race today. And if you are making those adjustments per corner, it is very easy after, the fatigue of so many laps to just forget one time. Forget that you need to be adjusting into turn number 1. The car will suddenly understeer massively and you'll end up sailing off into the wall, or into turn 3, your rear end will just overtake the front. End of qualifying here, and it is going to be Edson Santos who takes the pole position from Mo Perry and Lily Sharp.
So that wraps up our 5-minute 4-lap qualifying session. We're going to put cars on the grid. We're going to have 150 laps on offer tonight after our 5-minute warm-up. So sit tight, and let's Liv, if we can, let's bother Noah Belleville for a bit. I want to talk to him and get the Hometown Flavors opinion on tonight's events. Back after our qualifying session now with one of our hometown drivers, if you will, about an hour south of here, sits the Thursday Night Thunder champion and part-time ABN pilot Noah Belleville, Moldy, for those that know. Moldy, welcome to your home track, a rare ABN appearance. And now we're expecting big things. Well, I'm expecting big things because you love this track, but what are you expecting out of yourself?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I've only ran the Arrowhead 500, but I crashed out of it. So not much to go off of for this race. Not really my area of expertise, but yeah, home track. Don't really get to race here often because everybody hates this track, so no one ever races it. But I love it. It's something unique. Gives you something
I was going to ask you,
try and do.
You don't, right? You don't hate this
yeah,
track.
This place is awesome, dude. Come on now. Give it something unique. Flat. It's like Darlington, but no banking. Hard. So yeah, figured I'd show up.
We're glad to have you, man. I was actually, Carmen and I were talking about your paint scheme earlier as well. That Haas livery, looking real good out there. Hopefully, I'm going to be rooting for you to bring home the win. Hopefully, I don't put the curse of the commentator on you, man. But the difficulty of this track is something else, though. We were just talking about having to concentrate because the place is so flat. When you're coming out of 2, when you're coming out of 4, would you say that's probably the hardest part of the track? If not, what's your biggest challenge?
Yeah, I'd say exiting 2 is definitely the hardest part. 3 and 4, if the track temp's low enough, you can just take it wide open. And I mean, even right now, you can take it wide open in the day. So I don't know if it's night race or not, but I mean, obviously in traffic, you probably won't be able to take it wide open, but that corner is pretty easy. But 1 and 2, you got to brake going into it, and you kind of get a little loose on cold tires going in, and it gets really tight off exit. That's probably where you're going to see a lot of the problems.
Well, and we were talking earlier before the qualifying session that the sim settings are set to 2x, meaning the weather's going to advance 2 times faster than it normally would. So expect the sun to set quickly and the lights to come on. What's the track going to do when that happens?
Well, it's going to grip up, and hopefully it'll make it easier to pass because the high lane is like your main passing point's probably going to be 1 and 2, but it's going to be hard to do it on the bottom. But if the track's cooler, you get a little more grip, it might make it a little easier to pass.
All right, man, I'm going to let you get to work. We're probably going to make fun of you and then root for you as the race goes on. Have fun out there.
All right. Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, buddy. Noah Belleville is going to go to work, and we are going to get racing here. Live 20-ish seconds until we put the cars on the grid and we roll for green.
Yeah, it's going to be a great fight and a good way to send off this version of the Dallara IO8 team. We've had a basically unmodified car for the past 3 years now, so everyone's experience is as high as it's ever going to be. Let's see how they handle what is always a tricky challenge. before we head off into some new challenges in a couple of weeks' time.
Fans, this is your chance to go grab yourself a drink, grab yourself a nice tasty snack. Liv, I know you and I were talking about our love for Mexican food right at the end of this session here. So unfortunately, I don't have any. I can't grab any Mexican food in the interval between now and the time that we get racing. But it's what I'm going to be thinking about all race long now. It's going to be a problem. But I'm excited. I'm ready to go racing. Indy cars are always just a blast to call, especially at this racetrack, because I'm not racing in it. It's going to be unbelievable. So fans, don't go anywhere. We're going to get this ABN Champ Car World Series race underway in just a few minutes. Drivers are gridding. They're going to roll for green, and we're going to have 150 laps under the shadow of the St. Louis Arch. While we wait for the cars to get rolling, let's go ahead and bring up the starting lineup, starting with Brazil's very own Edson Santos lining up on the inside of Mo Perry. Jesse Francisco also going to be lining up alongside Lily Pelletier Sharp in row number 2. The third row of competition is going to have another one of our part-timers and one of the Ascent cars. Elias Flores is going to be lining up. Oh, no, you know what? What's going on here, Liv? I think as roll 3 goes by, Elias Flores and Carmen Sienna are lining up side by side, and it looks like one of the leaders didn't go, maybe Edson Santos. We just talked to Noah Belleville. He's going to be lining up next to Tucker Sawyer, who's second in points. In row number 5, we're going to have Vitor Guilherme, another one of our Brazilian drivers, and Ben Lawson, a rookie making a rare appearance in that 1-4. Championship leader and the man with a lot of work to do tonight next to our Argentine rookie Matias Marcomini, making up row number 6. Row number 7, Colin McDonough, Ben McDonald, a couple of rookies starting 13th and 14th respectively. In our 8th row, we've got Eli Sasic, who I actually saw last night at Berlin Raceway. Shout out to Eli. And then Michael Deach on the outside of row number 8. They run 15th and 16th. Chris Ryan, Jason Scott making up our 9th row. Jason, another one of our rookies, and another Ascent car. We'll talk about all those Ascent cars later. In row number 10, we've got Jason Duckworth, Evan Eisenman, another part-time driver. In the 11th row, we're going to have Bailey Thompson, Bailey Thompson and Craig Yore, the Australian rookie, and then looks like Mo Perry might be rounding out the back here, Liv. Kind of a screwy lineup. I think drivers got out of sorts.
Yeah, we have a couple of latency issues. I noticed Elias Flores blinking in and out of existence, and now Mo Perry having some similar issues. I think he may have been... he's going to try and work his way back to the outside of the front row, it looks like, although he might get sent to the tail end as he blinks out of existence once again. We did have a second pace lap just to try and get everyone into an order, and it does look like the 54 will head to the tail end to start this race, unfortunately. So move Jesse Francisco from 4th in qualifying up to the front row of the grid, as we are still trying to work out exactly who should be where for the race start. But the lights are out on the pace car. It looks like we will be going green this time by for 150 laps of frantic action at Gateway.
Brazilian Edson Santos with control of the field in that beautiful Blue Angels machine of Jesse Francisco on the outside. Coming to the line to get the party started. Green flag is out at WWT, and we are racing. Great jump by Edson Santos in the 2-0. He's going to have Jesse Francisco just tucking in behind him. Lily Sharp on the inside, but now has to drift up the racetrack. 2x2, almost 3 wide behind him. Santos with an undisputed lead headed into turn number 3. Clean and green through the first couple of corners, and they now drag race down the back straight, 2x2, 5 rows deep. Carmen Sienna sits to the inside of a couple of rivals. Eli Sasic trying to get out behind Ben McDonald in the 16. Santos leads lap number 1, 1:49 to go, Liv.
Yeah, and this is the stages where you really want to try and get those moves done early if you can. They are 3 wide in the back here. Once you get into that single file, the dirty air through turn 3 and 4 makes it very difficult to build a run back into turn number 1, and I think that's why you're seeing so much frantic shuffling here, especially at the back of the field. You've got Mo Perry, who's stuck all the way back at the tail end, trying to work his way through. It looks like may have even been dot to lap with some of that connection issues by iRacing, and so may have an early end to his night. Also near the back, Season 2 champion Christina Ryan, as Noah Belleville at the front of the field looks to make a move on Carmen Sienna for 6th place.
Belleville in that 41 Haas machine. He's sandwiched behind Vitor Guillermo, one of the teammates to Edson Santos, and Carmen Sienna in that 96 machine. Watching the way that these cars just float out of turn number 2 and go so close to that wall, it's hair-raising. Although, thankfully, this being the simulated experience that it is, it would be comical if one of these drivers were to end up crashing perfectly into that indent on the back straight. I don't hope that a driver gets in a wreck, but if they have to wreck on the back straight, give us something to look at.
Yeah, and in fact, we were racing here on Monday night in the official series, and to send off the car after the race, we all did send it into that gap, and it was spectacular. It certainly was a shower of fireworks, as it looks like, unfortunately, Mo Perry may have had another incident with some of those connection issues. He's rolling more than a lap down here and struggling to get any pace out of this thing. It's really unfortunate for what was a second place qualifying effort, but it seems like technical issues going to be denying Mo the run that he would have wanted tonight. Here's a move for second place, but Lily's gone around, in fact. Spins on the tools, keeps it down onto the access road. We are going to stay green here. But Lily Sharp just spinning on the tail end of Jessie Francisco for second place. She's going to fall all the way down to 16th. And let's have a look at exactly what went wrong for the number 71. You can see the car is so loose already, so free on that rear end. And then tries to dip it into turn number 1. It's a little bit checked up by Francisco and slides it around. Unfortunately, peels it onto that apron without any more drama.
8 laps into this race, Edson Santos leading by a large 1.5 seconds over Jessie Francisco. Elias Flores now tucking in 3rd. Tucker Sawyer in 4th. And championship rival Nick Pressey running down in 9th in the thick of it. Noah Belleville now working on the outside of Vitor Guillermo for that 4th position. Elias Flores watching the top 2 slip away 10 laps into this race, and Liv 5th all the way down through 14th are just sandwiched together.
Yeah, just can't seem to get any momentum. Could be a little bit off fuel save games potentially, as Vitor's trying to get this move done for the top 5, already up 3 positions, and would love to connect back up with his Lena Racing teammate, who is currently 4 seconds ahead in the lead of the race. Can't seem to get the move done around Noah Belleville. Great defense on the outside line there, as Ben McDonnell, debutant here, is going to go for a move on the inside of Carmen Sienna, who we were talking pre-race. We know that she's committing to a fuel save strategy early, and so probably very happy to let that Scott Dixon liveried machine fly through in the early running.
Liv, we didn't talk about your pick. Who do you like in this race?
I mean, if Edson shows up, and he's always a good pick to have, I think it's reasonable that he's going to try and control this one. The only real question mark is that if it is a fuel save race, whether if he's pushing at full speed, he can make it work. But we've seen him make up pit stop gaps before in races like this, and this track, you can gain so much in that clean air that I think Edson, who currently has led every single lap of this race from the green, is going to be a strong pick for this one.
Further back in this field, Lily Pelletier Sharp trying to catch up to Bailey Thompson in that 27 machine. Colin McDonough having his own struggles with rookie Ben Lawson behind him, and Matthias Marcomini in that 77. A closer fight is 6th and 7th. Noah Belleville and Ben McDonald, they are separated by just meters. And Belleville losing the spot to Vitor Guillermo in that top 5. The tires are going to undergo a lot more stress than we'd see at a normal oval, won't they?
Yeah, this is a massive conservation race for that right front tire especially. And if you overextend early, there can be a lot of trouble. And I'm a little bit worried that for Noah Belleville, that might be where we are at right now. Currently sits up 1 position from where he started, but credit to McDonald further behind, who is up 6 positions, started in 13th and is already up well inside the top 10.
Let me ask you about those tires, though. We're 10 laps into this race. You're telling me Noah Belleville has put so much stress on that right front tire he can no longer compete for position?
I'm not, maybe not quite competing for position. You're seeing the outside line is going to be helpful for the number 41 car, but as the stint goes on, it's definitely a concern, and if you don't stay on top of it, then it runs away from you. And so it may be more of a fact that Belleville now is going into a bit of a conserve mode, and that is why Ben McDonald is able to get that move done up into the 6th position, up 7 spots from where he started.
So the rookie's doing his thing up in that 6th spot, trying to now get around Vitor Guillermo, and perhaps Noah Belleville is on that conservation strategy. Maybe he does have more to offer in the rest of this stint. How far do the cars go on fuel?
I'd say we're expecting around about 35 to 40 laps if you're full push, and you could probably extend that to maybe 45 laps with some fuel saving, but it's going to be likely a 3-stop race. I don't think that you can get to lap 50 and put it in thirds with the restricted fuel tanks that we have here. But I'd love to be proven wrong. I always love seeing a good fuel mileage race, and maybe someone like Carbon Sienna might take the dice roll on that one.
You like seeing a good fuel mileage race?
I'm a nerd. I love it when there's one driver who goes for a strategy that no one else thinks is possible. I think that's the main thing. If everyone's committed and is just running in line, then yeah, it's a little bit dull. But if there's one driver who comes out of nowhere and you realize, oh, they're not going to stop, they can go to the end, I do quite like that.
I hope you get your wish. I hope we get a photo finish at the end of this race. I really do. Anything's possible. That's why we love racing. 21 laps into this event, Edson Santos still has a very tight grip on the lead. Jesse Francisco can't fly any closer to the Brazilian driver. He sits 1.4 seconds behind. 4th place and 3rd, hotly contested. Tucker Sawyer, Vitor Guillermo, and Elias Flores 3rd through 5th. Quick look at 10th and 11th. Well, 9th, 10th, and 11th. That's Nick Pressey, Ben Lawson, and Colin McDonough. And then Michael Deach on the back of Eli Sasick as well. That is 14th and 13th, respectively. Lawson now trying to stay ahead of Nick Pressey. And this, Liv, is exactly what Tucker Sawyer needs, because the points are starting to skew in Pressey's favor. Sawyer comes into this race 2nd in points after last week having made up a few spots on Pressey.
And in the background there, Mark Amini with a big hit on the wall there. But yeah, this is do or die time for Tucker Sawyer and Christina Ryan, both very close in points, but well adrift of Nicholas Pressey. Sawyer would gain with where he's running right now, but with not getting that podium out of this race, it wouldn't be a significant enough chunk, I think, for what Tucker Sawyer would be looking for. I'm expecting the 19 has Mid-Ohio circled on the calendar, hoping that he can take a race win there and really start to cut into Nicholas Pressey's advantage, as the caution is out on the racetrack, and it looks like it is going to be Jason Scott in the number 29 new driver for Ascent Racing, and that race car is wrecked. That will go no further in this one. Let's take a look at what happened to the number 29 car here after 25 laps of action. Oh, and he just gets onto that inside curb. You really cannot trust it at all through turns 1 and 2, and immediately the car steps out. You can see that one of those rear tires is just not connected, and neither is the rear wing. That is going to be day done for Jason Scott, but more importantly, this, I think, is going to be a prime opportunity for a pit cycle, and sure enough, a lot of the field on the access lane to come into pit lane. Carmen Sienna will stay out and file into the race lead, but it now comes down to a battle on pit road. Can Edson Santos keep the lead, or will Jesse Francisco have a lightning stop and take control of this race?
Everybody decides to come into the pits except for Carmen Sienna. What's the strategy?
I think at this point this does cut out a pit stop, so Carmen Sienna taking a big gamble, banking on the track position here instead of going for it to go green to the end. It's a great jump from Edson Santos, but in fact Vitor Diem is the one who wins the race off pit road ahead of Jesse Francisco. That connects those two Lena Racing cars, 2 and 3, behind Carmen Sienna. They are in a position where they can maybe control this race from here, unless Carmen Sienna can find any bid strategy to work with. Mo Perry has gotten back onto the lead lap with this caution. Hopefully can get some of those internet troubles sorted out and can start his charge through the field. But I'm very interested to see how well Carmen Sienna can hold on to the race lead with 25 lap old tyres and with 2 very fast Brazilians behind.
We're going to get this sorted here in a couple of laps. The lights are still on top of the pace car. We'll see if they shut off here. The lights do turn off, so we're going green this time by... Unless I'm going crazy. Are the lights off on that pace car? It's hard to see with that sun shining in.
Yeah,
lights are off, so we're going green.
Yeah, new iOS update has actually attempted to shorten some of the caution procedures at shorter racetracks and move them a little bit more in line with what you would see at the lights of Daytona. And so we're going to be racing very shortly indeed. Confirm that Jason Scott is still down on pit lane, is going to be our first retirement of tonight's race. All 20 other cars will be on the lead lap here, and it'll be Carmen Sienna to the inside of Edson Santos, and is going to need a very good jump here to try and hold off those cars on the fresh tires.
Car 96 has control of the field. We'll see for how much longer. Liv, I think you're right. I think this is going to be a big jump for a lot of the drivers coming around her. We're going to find out, aren't we? We got just a few feet to the green. Car 96, she calls the shots. We'll see just how big of a jump she gets. Down the front straight, bringing him through the restart zone. Green flag is out, and it's a great jump for Carmen Sienna. But how will the draft now come into effect? The Brazilians, Santos and Guilherme, now need to fit in tightly, while Jesse Francisco tries to make up the space behind them. Now you've got Tucker Sawyer, Elias Flores, 2, 3 wide. They jostle down the back straight, Liv, into turn 3.
Yeah, and it almost looked like there was contact there for Jesse Francisco, just misjudging the exit a little bit. He's running a little bit slow, maybe off turn number 4, and that's backing up the rest of the field behind. We could see an instant here. They're still filing 2 wide through turns 1 and 2. But meanwhile, Santos has a second and change to try and find to Carmen Sienna, who's gotten a good jump on the restart, and will have those tires warmed up. Let's not forget, he's going to have a little bit of grip to work with in the early running before Santos fires up those tires, as we are 3 wide into turn number 1. Cars having to back out here, but I think we could get a caution before too long. There's bumping, there's banging. I think Bailey Thompson is in a little bit of trouble here. He's going to dive to the inside, and there's smoke ahead. Great catch. I think that might have been for McDonald there, who saves the car through turn 3. But my goodness, this is chaos in the midfield.
It is chaos, and they have to navigate this. I mean, we're only 32 laps into our 150-lap event. That's if my math is right, approximately 1/5 of the way in. My math is never right. Is that about a fifth?
About a
30
fifth of the
laps out
way
of
in.
150?
And as we were watching that midfield battle, Santos has worked his way back into the race lead. Now let's see how Vitor Guillaume gets the move done. The teammate looking to go 1-2-4. Lena Racing for the Brazilian duo is going to go to the inside of turn number 3. Can Carmen fight it back on the crossover? And I'm not sure she can. She's well behind into turn number 1. Might have to continue the fuel save. And look at that 1-2 now for Lena Racing, as we are still in a hornet's nest in the battle on the fringes of the top 10. Not to the wall for Eli Sasek there, it looks like. Wonder if he has any damage carrying from some of those contacts.
The car is only going to take so much. There's only so much contact that these drivers can make on each other. They can't lean on each other like stock cars. They're going to need to be careful and really exercise caution, for lack of a better phrase, when it comes to taking care of these race cars. At the front, the Brazilians do have good control of the field. Looking at our hometown driver, Noah Belleville, he currently runs in 9th, all the way from 5th down to about 16th. Really, Liv, everybody has no space to breathe.
Yeah, and at this point, Carmen Sienna is now acting as a cork in the bottle as she starts to fade on those older tyres. Nicholas Pressy is now worked by 4th place. Great run so far in this stint for your championship leader. Colin McDonough going to go for a very similar move now into turn number 1. And Noah Belleville finally worked past Bailey Thompson in the background. Thompson was up 13 positions, but now is getting a little bit swallowed up, but not as quickly as Carmen Sienna, who is really fading on those tyres and has a pit stop for fuel before too long on the horizon.
I think she learned an important lesson. Yeah, no, definitely. Look at this. Look at this. 3 wide down the front straight, 38 laps into this race. A very important lesson learned by Carmen Sienna. Take tires. Eli Sasek, who's even got a damaged race car, now starting to show speed around the Ohio pilot in the 96. Noah Belleville from 7th on forward now gets a move on. Like you said, Liv, the cork in the bottle is that Visa machine, and everybody's desperate to get around.
Yeah, but what this has actually done is it's slightly filed everyone out ahead of this fight. There's a side-by-side with Francisco into turn number 1, but it's a patience game to get around Carmen, and then it starts to settle down a little bit. You see, big dive from Eli Sasek to the inside, can't quite get there, and now McDonald going to try and file around the outside lane, and now has a clear, goes inside for turn number 1, is going to have to dive this, and I think is going to clear here, and no, good fight back from Carmen Sienna.
Sienna stays high in that 96, lacking the grip, lacking the speed through the corners to the inside in the PNC machine. Ben McDonald, who's up 5 places, is making his way up through this field and finally around Sienna into turn 1. Eli Sasek is next, Liv.
Yeah, and Carmen Sienna down 8 positions now since the start of this stint. Just about 10 laps ago, there's smoke on the backstretch. I think that may have been a lapped car going for a little bit of a slide. Mo Perry is back down on pit lane, and Carmen Sienna says enough is enough, has to peel off, but he's going to go a lap down, getting those fresh Goodyear tyres on. And now, how does this change the battle for P9? Eli Sasek under pressure from Bailey Thompson.
Sienna's finally come down into the pits and finally getting that relief. Noah Belleville just went green, Liv, 24.95. The Missouri pilot maybe is conserved his tires through the beginning of this restart here and has more grip than his rivals.
Yeah, and now Ben Lawson on series debut to the inside of Bailey Thompson. Can't quite clear into turn number 1. But anyone who's ahead of this fight has that breathing space to start working on the conservation, to maybe save some fuel if you need to, but like you said, also take care of that right front tyre. Noah Belleville has a little bit of pressure from Francisco behind, but other than that, has plenty of daylight back to McDonald and Sasek.
Santos, Guillermo, Sawyer, your top three. Looking at 10th all the way down to 15th, Bailey Thompson to Michael Deach. Those drivers still accordion. Even without Sienna, they still draft next to each other and live that draft between them. How powerful is that, given that the corners kind of break up all that momentum?
It's quite big. If you can carry momentum through turns 3 and 4, then you can really carry that draft through there, but you have to find a clean line. You have to be offset from the car ahead, and I think you're going to see that from Lawson try and go to the high side now that Thompson has gone low. This is where you build the momentum, and in fact might be able to get to the outside into turn number 1. Commentator had to take a wind repair and is now 2 laps down as to try and fight back through those race leaders.
That sucks.
Oh,
huge hit into the wall. Who's that out of turn number 2? Is that Mo Perry? No, it's Sharp. Lily Sharp out of turn number 2. She goes with a huge slam. And this is what we've been talking about, Liv. Driver's just going to... Oh, and there's contact. It looks like it was netcode from Bailey Thompson. We'll have another look, but that was potential contact, or netcode, if you will. The absence of contact, almost. Liv, have a look and tell us what happened.
Yeah, so down onto the low side here is Bailey Thompson through 1 and 2. I think has maybe a whittle of oversteer. Has to run it up the racetrack to correct. And unfortunately ends up washing up into Lily Sharp here. We'll have another look from the onboard camera of Thompson here and see exactly what we're working with. You're going to see one car fly around the outside. That's Ben Lawson. And then into turn number 1. Watch the steering wheel here. Dives it in super deep. It's just understeer. Has the wheel cramped so hard to try and get it turned. And unfortunately...
Liv, let's see if we can get a shot from the sky here, Liv. It's a lot of understeer out of that 27, but I want to see the gap between the race cars and see if we can find daylight between them when they make contact.
So this is from our blimp camera as he tries to wash around the outside, and I think there's going to be contact there. Maybe it happens a touch before it would typically, but it seems like Thompson's going to wash up out to the wall there, and Sharp is just filling that gap. An unfortunate end to the race for the 71 as we get through into the pit stop cycle. Carbon Senna will gain 1 lap back, but unfortunately is still stuck 1 down here, as a few other drivers at the tail end have come in just for a splash of fuel. Edson Santos and Vitor Guillaume, notably, have come into the pit lane. Guillaume took some tyres, Santos did not, but that cycles your top 2, Toto Sawyer and Nicholas Pressey.
Had another look at that crash there, Liv. That was definitely netcode between the 71, but of course that was generated by a lack of grip on Bailey Thompson's end, and you could see on that onboard shot that Bailey Thompson is downshifting with full lock on the wheel, and just a lack of grip, as we continue to say, causes this second caution. Coming to 100 laps to go as drivers get lined up side by side. We're going green this time by, with Tucker Sawyer in control, and now Liv, all of the top 10 stayed out. 11th through 20th came in for tires.
While some drivers came in just for a splash of fuel, Edson Santos choosing to save a set for later in the race if needed. Reminder that drivers have 5 sets of Firestone tyres to work with for this event. We're not quite at that 40% mark, so Santos didn't feel confident taking that 3rd set of tyres. His teammate, though, split the strategies and has gone for that gamble. But we'll see how they work together through the field, as Sawyer and Pressey are going to duel from the front, as we've seen so many times this race. Here we come back to the restart zone.
Tucker Sawyer in control of the field in the number 19 Ascent card. Look the way he backs up the whole field, and he gets a massive jump now down the front straight. So Tucker Sawyer with his championship rival now just peels into turn number 1 with a great grip there. Nick Pressy's going to follow him, and now everybody has to get in line again, and the chaos, the carnage, and the careful chess match begins again.
Yeah, actually the top 10 mostly single file. Gina Ryan going for a bid run around the outside of Ben Lawson now, and will follow Jesse Francisco up into 7th place. But I'm really excited to see what happens with Guillaume and Santos here. They are being very patient down in 11th and 12th. The field behind, getting left behind a little bit as maybe carrying some damage from early incidents. But there's the dive from Guillaume. Gets past Bailey Thompson very quickly. But here comes the 27, going to fight back on those warm tyres. He's going to be to the inside of turn number 1, and that is not maybe where Guillaume wants to be. And there's actually going to be a spin further ahead. That's Eli Sasek. Spins in turn number 1, and that wipes out the number 7 car, who was looking so strong all day.
Cautions breed cautions. Eli Sasek, Vitor Guillermo involved in an accident, and that's going to take some repairs. And Liv, at this oval race, are these drivers going to have any fast repairs?
No fast repairs available on the oval, so that is going to be likely day done for Vitor. You can see the wheel just completely handing off, and we'll see, I don't know, a little bit of technical trouble on the replay machine. Hopefully we can get that queued up very shortly. It just looked like a solo spin maybe from Eli Sasek that sparked all of that chaos in turn number 1, and it was Guillaume that had nowhere to go, and he's going to have to peel down onto pit road, catch a little bit of grass in fact, and he is going to be done for the day.
Not even halfway through this race. We're a third of the way through this race, and already a lot of race-winning contenders have been knocked out. So now, Liv, of that top 9 now that still has not pitted, would you expect anybody to come in again?
Not in this stop. I think if you've already made that pit stop, you've set yourself onto a strategy, and you have to just commit to it at that point. We will try and get another look at that as we see Vitor Guillaume pull down into pit lane. His day going to unfortunately be done. But let's see if we can have a look at exactly what went wrong for our Brazilian driver, and more importantly, how that went wrong for Eli Sasek up at the front of the field.
Looking at the replay here, Eli Sasek just minding his own business into turn number 1, but it looks like Guillermo didn't anticipate the closing speed through the corner. Guillermo just with a head full of steam, and Eli Sasek, I don't know if he even made contact with that outside wall going into turn number 1, but the closing rate for Sasek was, well, Guillermo's closing rate up to Sasek was just immense. And now Eli Sasek lies motionless in the pits with no front wing, no rear wing, and it's going to be a long night for him.
Yeah, we're just following on board here with Eli, who unfortunately is going to be out of this one. This is just the prior lap as we work our way back through to this incident. And center of your screen, that black and blue car is going to go into turn number 1 and does get a tap, in fact. And yeah, that is all on the shoulders of Vitor, you've got to say. Just didn't quite judge that closing rate. I thought it was a solo spin that had gotten him collected, but very much induced by that contact, and that's the risk of putting yourself further down the field, unfortunately. You have to try and cut your way back through.
So a few drivers now motionless as it looks like the track is illuminated for the final 2/3 of our event here. Ready to go back to green. Tucker Sawyer and Nick Pressey will be on the front row one more time with Noah Belleville and rookie Ben McDonald. I'm sorry, Ben McDonald's not a rookie. There's so many rookies in this field. I think everybody's a rookie. Well, we'll see how he races. So we're about to get this race going once again, waiting for that signal, and our dear Tucker Sawyer with control of the field with Nick Pressey by his side. Noah Belleville in row number 2, waiting for that jump. The green flag is out. Sawyer doesn't get as good of a jump this this time, and now the attack is on, Liv.
Yeah, you're going to see that outside line is going to be so preferable in the exit of the corner. But Tucker keeps the nose ahead. Ben McDonald actually tries to fill that gap and I think forces Pressy to not quite go all the way there. This opens the door for Belleville, who is going to try and fight his way through on the inside of turn 3 and 4. But now Pressy has the run, has the slipstream into turn number 1. He's going to be able to slot into that gap, but unfortunately doesn't have the opportunity to put the attack on Tucker Sawyer. They're side by side again for third place here as Belleville tucked back in, and Edson Santos still stuck down in ninth now. One of the two Lena Racing drivers out of contention. So he's got to work his way back through without any help from teammates.
Frustration for a lot of drivers tonight, and hopefully the frustration stays away with 90-plus laps remaining in this race. Tucker Sawyer and Nick Pressy running 1-2. Pressy doing everything he needs to do to keep the pressure on Tucker Sawyer as well. Chris Ryan and Noah Belleville almost making contact. Liv Ryan is up 12 places from where she started, and behind her, Jesse Francisco just went purple.
Yeah, using great use of that slipstream, finding the pull through the corners, and has set the fast that will award a point if it holds for the end of the race. But as the conditions start to head into nighttime, I would expect that this track is going to get faster and faster as we go. Nicholas Pressy makes the run to the lead of the race. McDonald and Belleville actually shuffle Tucker Sawyer all the way down the order, and it is a dogfight at the front of the field. Belleville shoots into second place. And is this a matter of Sawyer starting to do a little bit of conservation, or is he just not quite got enough to fend these drivers off?
Pressy at the front, Noah Belleville in second, and this is what we were waiting for. The hometown flavor of the week now making his charge. How about Ben McDonald holding his own while you have drivers on the outside there just struggling to make that corner? That looks like Colin McDonough, who's on the outside, almost crashing in behind Jesse Francisco. Christina Ryan went green. The track goes faster. How about Ben McDonald running a low exit out of turn number 4? The lines are various with these drivers. That's Tucker Sawyer now trying a low entrance into turn number 1. Where's the advantage here?
It's wherever the car in front of you isn't. That's why you saw McDonald take a high, wide line on the entry of turn number 1 and then cut down late in turn number 2. You saw the same sort of strategy in turn 3 and 4. Just trying to get offset from Belleville, who seems to be attacking the corner entries a bit more. Now as Belleville goes high, you see McDonald cut down to the low side much earlier. That is the strategy. Just try and get yourself offset as Christina Ryan under attack now from Ben Lawson.
Christina Ryan has to do work as the AJ Foyt liveried car of Lawson wants to get further up, but of course you've got one of the race's fastest drivers, Edson Santos, in 9th. If it's me, let Santos go. He knows what he's doing a lot more than most people out here. Give him the room to race. At the front, Liv, we have a lead change. Noah Belleville, 24.69. He is the new quick driver under the arch.
Yeah, great run here from Belleville. Is starting to pull away now from Pressy. But you notice that Edson Santos actually nearly getting overtaken by Bailey Thompson. I don't think he's pushing right now. I think he's playing a patient game and waiting for these drivers ahead to make their pit stop and just saving some tyre until then. Further back, Pressy now swerving, fighting against Ben McDonald, who is going to try and cross him over through turns 3 and 4. And is going to have the inside line into turn number 1. Can he make it stick and control that second place and start to work towards Noah Belleville?
We'll see just how far he gets away with that move. Certainly, Belleville has a lot to defend, but he's already got a 1.2 second lead at the front of this race. And this is where it starts to get dicey. Nick Pressy, Ben McDonald, Tucker Sawyer. The cars spread out through the rest of the top 10. However, second, third, fourth, they're just inches away. And Liv, this is the kind of recipe that makes for another crash where 3 or 4 really good drivers are taken out because they're not exercising patience.
Yeah, and not just that, but the fact that they're fighting, the fact that they're going side by side through these pinch points, that's part of what's letting Noah Belleville run away. McDonald has now worked his way to the lead of the race, or lead of this pack, I should say. We'll see if he can focus forward and start to chase down the number 41. But further back, everyone seems to be on the aggression, except for Edson Santos, who is very comfortable sitting at the tail end of this group. This has to be a strategy play for the number 20.
Well, I think Edson also understands there's no need to push the issue. He sits in ninth. There's plenty of cautions to come. He's going to save his tires for that last final restart and hope he puts himself in a position to win. Santos, if I'm assuming correctly, and I'm probably not, is riding out the middle of the race. We're only 69 laps into our 150 lap event. Why push the envelope?
Yeah, and remember that most of the cars ahead, or maybe all of them, didn't take that pit stop. They are going to be shorter on fuel, and they're going to have to come in within the next 10 or 20 laps. And that'll be when Santos cycles in. In fact, Tucker Sawyer, it looks like, is going to be down on pit lane right now, as is Nicholas Pressey. It'll be a race of the pit crews for the top two in the championship, as does Noah Belleville cycle through. So this is where Edson, I think, is going to start to put that charge on. The rest of the field cycles through the pit lane, and it'll cycle Edson Santos to the race lead.
And now all he has to do is wait. Again, no point in pushing it. 6th through 10th, all pitted at least on lap 47. There's no need to force that issue. Jesse Francisco has not pitted since lap 26, so he is approaching the 50th lap of this run, currently being scored as our race leader. Colin McDonough's in the second position, Ben Lawson runs in third, and Chris Ryan runs in fourth. Liv Santos has already cycled up to fifth, so now the differing strategies are going to determine who has control.
Yeah, and in that pack that has made the pit stops, Pressey did win the race off pit road ahead of Tucker Sawyer. We'll see where the rest of that group that pit a lap later will cycle out, but Edson Santos has cycled up into third. As Ben Lawson comes into the pit lane, that will turn into second place, and this is where we need to see those lap times improve for the number 2. We need to see Edson go purple in these next runs to prove that he can make this overcut work. Right now, he's about 3/10 off what he was running at the fastest point of the race, and as Colin McDonough peels into pit lane, let's see if we can see a purple lap here from Edson.
Well, if he does come out with a purple lap, then we know Edson is absolutely trying to just open as much of a gap as possible. Last time around, he goes 25.06, which is 3/10 off of his quickest time. So we'll see if he decides to push the envelope or if he decides to conserve those tires again. Right now, he's being scored with a 9-second advantage to Elias Flores in that double 9 Ascent car. Carmen Sienna is in third. She pitted on lap 54. So now the halves are 7th, well, now 6th, all the way down through 14th, and the have-nots are 1st all the way through 5th.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, we're not seeing that improvement from Santos. I feel like he might be running to a number. He might be calculating to the end and trying to save a pit stop, because right now he's getting challenged by these cars who are 1 lap down. They're about a lap and a half behind your race leader. But crucially, Noah Belleville has pulled 5 seconds to Nicholas Pressey in that last run. You see Pressey making his way past Carmen Sienna, who is a lead lap car on those older tyres. But Belleville has seemed to clear all of this traffic and is in a pocket of clean air in that Haas machine and completely unstressed by the rest of the fighting behind.
I think the settling has now commenced. Drivers now they've gone through a couple of pit stops. Drivers are now giving each other a bit more room to race. This is what I personally expected to see more towards the beginning of tonight's event, but better late than never. We are halfway, well past halfway through this race. We're on the back 9 of the race, as we are on the back 9 of the season. So far, so good. A few cautions in our gateway event. Liv, now that we know who's still around, who can survive, without picking Edson Santos, because we've talked about him a lot, who do you like to win?
Well, there's two strategies right now, it feels like, and of course, we mentioned Santos on one of those strategies and dominating right now. Dominated on the other strategy is Noah Belleville. He has a huge gap to Nicholas Pressey, who had to fight through the traffic on the way out of pit lane. I think Belleville just came out of that pit lane in clean air and was able to push immediately, and he is currently 6 seconds ahead of this pack for 6th place. He is the first car 1 lap down, but is looking already to cycle his way past Edson Santos in the next 10 laps or so. And I think he is going to be the pit to win if this pit stop strategy works out.
Remind me again how long they can go on fuel?
I would expect about 40 laps.
So 40 laps on fuel, it's a 150 lap race. So we have now, the drivers that last pitted on lap 47, they're going to be coming in the next 6-ish laps, if you will. So then that's going to put them on 2 more stops until the end?
If you stop now, then you would make 1 more stop before the end of the race. Any car
that's how good my math is.
Still out, and this is the thing. Some of these cars, like the ones that just pit around lap 70, they can make it on 1 more stop, but they're going to have to do a little bit of fuel saving to make it work. I think Edson Santos has 2 more stops left in the tank, but can go full push. And so I'm a little bit confused as to why he's not uncaught some lap times here and is still running in those low 25s when we've seen some other drivers like Noah Belleville find their way into the 24s recently and really start to push that charge. Then we're following this pack. We have some cars that are still out from the previous set of pit stops from the previous caution, as well as cars fighting through on those fresh tires on those heavier cars. And right now it is Carmen Sienna sat in 2nd place with Elias Flores and Jason Duckworth behind, but they, as well as Edson Santos, still have a pit stop left to serve. They've been out for at least 30 laps here.
Oh, there's a huge crash there. It looks like Marcomini's gone around in the corner, and it is Matias Ezequiel Marcomini, the Argentinian driver, going around in turn number... Is that... Oh, my goodness. And then Bailey Thompson almost getting into him. That is turn 1. And Marcomini struggling to get the car moving, but of course, it's an extremely damaged race car, and he may just need to tow to the pits.
Yeah, that car's
Let's have a look. Let's have a look and see what happened to the Argentine driver. He was on the outside of the 38 Blue Angels machine. Oh, the huge net code. Liv, we got to get a close shot here because there is an unbelievable amount of net code between the 77 and it looks like the 16 of McDonald.
Yeah, and that's a huge shame. You know, Marcomini was on those slightly older tires. You saw McDonald try to file through, and unfortunately, it is going to be a massive chunk of net code down into turn number 1 as McDonald dives for the inside, and it just rips that left rear tire straight off, and it's going to bring out the caution on lap number 87. Now, what's crucial here is that all the cars that had stayed out and had stayed on the lead lap now cycle through into the race lead. Here's Edson Santos down on pit lane, finally taking that service. And here is the train behind the pace car of all of the cars that need to take a wave around here to get back on the lead lap. So we are looking at just 5 cars who stayed on the lead lap before that caution. Noah Belleville will take the lucky dog out of this, but will restart in 6th place with the rest of the field having to cycle back around. And Edson Santos, who is playing a very patient game here, moves into the race lead with the timing of that caution, ahead of Carmen Sienna, Elias Flores, Jason Duckworth, and Evan Eisenman, all making huge gains through the timing of that caution. So the drivers finally get a chance to catch their breaths.
I get a chance to catch mine as well. We're going to restart with approximately 60 laps to go. Well, the lights are out on the pace car, so we're going green next time by. So it's going to be, what, 63 laps to go. When we get the green, Tucker Sawyer will go around by himself. Then we've got, these are cars getting the wave around here, Liv?
Yeah, and it's a big group with a caution coming out mid-cycle there. They have about 15-lap old tyres, have a little bit less fuel to work with. Might have to do still a little bit of saving to make it on one more stop. All of these cars in the top 6 are good to go. And I wonder if we are going to maybe get a caution extension as these cars continue to work their way back through to the front of the field. We might go green this time by, but it is going to be Santos, Sienna, Flores, and Duckworth side by side. And then a little bit of a more typical restart formation that you see behind, because we are going to be strung out double file all the way back from there.
Getting ready to go green as the pace car peels off, and now the drivers have to sort this one out again. Edson Santos with control of the field and a sensational jump by the Brazilian pilot. Carmen Sienna now following close behind him into that first corner, and now we get to see what these drivers can really do with a bit more space and now a much cooler racetrack. Out of turn 2 it goes Santos, Sienna, Jason Duckworth in third.
And they did not waste any time going back to 2 wide behind, nearly 3 wide in fact, as they shuffle. Here's Ben McDonnell charging through in the middle of 3 wide, somehow making it stick, keeping the foot in even now. And this could be a wreck into turn 1. 3 wide, 2 cars behind. Are they going to be able to shuffle out? Ben McDonnell charges through and is immediately up into 4th place, while further back, nearly contact with Noah Belleville. He was looking so strong, but is getting a little bit swallowed up here. And you know what? Maybe those cars that took the wave around had those fired up tyres that really helps them in these opening laps. McDonnell, Pressey, Sawyer all swallowing up Belleville, Flores, and Eisenman. But, I mean, Edson Santos has those fresh tyres and has pulled away as there's a big crash in the background. That's Ben Lawson. That is Bailey Thompson. And we are back under caution once again with Evan Eisenman also spun around.
What did we say earlier? Cautions breed cautions.
I mean, we say it every time, don't we?
Again. Yeah, it's been a theme though. But we also mentioned earlier, this race drives like a short track. And again, I'm comfortable sitting up here in the booth. I am not in the rig. I'm not on the racetrack making these decisions. But it could be netcode again. If we get a closer shot, we might see what happened there. But it seems like drivers aren't giving each other the necessary space in the opening laps to exist, to breathe, to just race the car. And we are in the second half of this race, granted, but just look at that. Bailey Thompson getting the raw end of the deal on something that she had nothing to do with. It looks like to me that one could have been avoided.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the case. Everyone just fighting with 6 laps to go on the same strategy at this point, and so knowing that it is a straight shot to the end, but it's such a long shot to the end that I just don't really understand that level of aggression, as we have now another 3 cars out of the race with just some sloppy contact in turn number 1. And then, yeah, for Thompson, let's actually have a look on board with Bailey Thompson on that one. So I'm really curious how much time that the number 27 had to react here. You can see the side-by-side into turn number 1 is so committed to the corner, already on the power for the exit, and then suddenly, I mean, there's barely any time for Thompson to try and get on the brakes, and that is day done for another car, as well as the 2 that were the initial contact there.
What are we down to now? I think a third of the field might have been taken out in some incident at least. Evan Eisenman motionless there in the 14th position, and Ben Lawson much the same, not gaining any sort of ground. So I think we have 11 cars that are left running in this race of the original 22 that attempted to start. And it, but this is racing. Some races we're going to get a lot of drivers that make it to the end, and other races we're going to have half the field taken out by wrecks. But again, space is limited at this racetrack, and where there's smoke, there is fire.
Yeah, this is the track where the drivers really do make the race, and we've seen some fantastic clean running here in the past, but we've also seen some series that just cannot get a green flag run going, and unfortunately, after we had some great racing early on, some great long green flag runs, we've now had some really unfortunate incidents that have trimmed the field way down. And as we go back to double file for this restart, just 11 cars still running, all 11 currently sat on the lead lap. We see if they can get some racing in this final third of the race. We restart with 56 laps to go, and it's going to be Edson Santos and Carmen Sienna leading the way. Everyone has one stop left to make. Some drivers on slightly older tyres, but now as F1's gone through a heat cycle, I think Edson's going to have one hell of a jump as we get back green.
Well, there's the call right there. What a jump every single time. And Edward Santos has been making a living off of getting a jump like that, but just beautifully done again. And huge contact. McDonald gets into Sienna right through turns 1 and 2. That was just frustrating to watch, because, and I want to take a look at this one again, but Ben McDonald just goes right into the back end of the 96. Let's get nice up close and personal here. And I just don't know if McDonald wasn't paying attention at the closing speed, or if Sienna just had tried to correct the car. There's very little time for McDonald to react there, but I'd be interested to see whether this is McDonald failing to apply the brakes, or Sienna just going too slow for McDonald to react. Liv, what do you see?
Onboard from Carmen Sienna here as we go through in the corner. There's a downshift down to third. I think maybe wasn't expecting the level of dirty air from Santos, but ultimately it's up to the car behind to make that judgment and to make sure that you don't run over the car ahead. Let's have one more look from the skies here as we go back to racing, and McDonald's being pressured on the inside, does not want to give up any position, but just does not need to be pushing that close to a car ahead when you know that these restarts have been so tricky and have had those levels of checkups. We do have, as we go back to our live action, now down to 9 cars remaining on the lead lap. And Tucker Sawyer is choosing to make a pit stop here.
You think we're going to have any cars to finish this race?
Well, I mean, with the jumps that Edson's been getting, he's been staying ahead of all this chaos ever since he cycled back to the race lead. What I am really curious about here is that Tucker has decided to make that pit stop. He's taken a fresh set of tyres. He's obviously topped up the fuel tank. We do not think that this is within the fuel window to get to the end of the race, but maybe he's seen what's happened ahead and is just saying, you know what, I don't want to be pushing through this pack right now. I may as well try something. And so the number 19, offset from Nicholas Pressey, is going to get some fresh tyres on and see what he can do with a little bit more of the fuel left in the tank.
So drivers will cross the line. We're going to get lined up and try this again, but certainly I'm expecting and hoping for a much more controlled event here this time around. And I mean, it's not like we're asking for miracles here, Liv. These drivers are extremely capable of completing a couple of laps without crashing.
Yeah, and this is the unfortunate thing. We've seen it so much in the early running. It was great running early on, and now they just seem to have gotten their eyes on the end of the race a bit too early, are racing like they're already there, and for now 5 cars in this most recent restart sequence, they just have thrown it all away when there were some really strong race cars up there. Ben McDonald was making huge charges through. Bailey Thompson at one point was up more than a dozen spots before getting collected in that first caution. And it's just unfortunate to see. Let's see what we can get now, as it is Santos and Belleville on the front row, and now Jason Duckworth and Jesse Francisco on row number 2.
Let's see if Noah Belleville can start to catch up to Santos's game here. Let's see if Santos can maybe play a little more trickeration in his restart this time around. Control lies with the 20 car. He gets another sensational jump. We're racing again at Gateway, approaching the final 50 laps.
Yeah, and you see again, Duckworth goes to the low side, isn't actually going to fight this very heavily, and a few cars get around. That's where Duckworth was on the previous restart, while the incident with McDonald and Sienna happened up high. So the number 73 trying to manage this race a lot more sensibly. It's what we like to see. But up at the front, Santos with a 4/10 lead after lap number 1 of this restart. Jesse Francisco down in 3rd place behind.
Santos's lead now being sucked up by Noah Belleville, and then Jesse Francisco in that beautiful Blue Angels machine running in that 3rd position. Christina Ryan up 12 places from where she started. Jason Duckworth up 13 places from where she started. Pressey and Sawyer still nose to tail, and that championship fight stays close as ever. Liv. Green laps from McDonough and Ryan, they're gaining speed.
And yeah, this is where the nighttime really plays in. Remember that it was double time in terms of the weather here, and as we get into the final running of the race, as again more technical issues unfortunately rearing their head, the track has cooled down so much under those last couple of cautions, and now drivers can really get to use that speed that they've been working on all race long. The track getting friendlier and friendlier, and now is the time to set those huge laps as we work forward in the field.
101 laps now complete here. We're on the 102nd lap of competition. We're inside of the final 50. Belleville goes purple, 24:69. Liv, now tell me about the strategy here. You're the driver. Let me know where you sit. You know that you have one more stop to the end, and with such a caution-heavy race, I wouldn't think that you want to push the envelope. You just need to wait.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to be as late as possible on those restarts, on those pit stops, I should say, because it's just going to put you at risk if you pit early. We saw from Santos stayed out, that caution came and suddenly ended up in a bot seat back into the lead of the race. I think that's what you want to see drivers going for here, and maybe that's why Tucker Sawyer came down pit lane under that caution. He just wanted to make sure he could go longer than anyone else.
Santos leading Belleville, Francisco by 1/10 of a second, and Francisco gets closer to that 2nd place fight, Liv. Now, 4th through 8th, not bunched up, but they have each other's draft. It looks like for the most part, because we have a limited number of cars now, drivers finally have that room to race, and Francisco will take advantage.
Yeah, just one driver off the pace here. Elias Flores, it looks like, maybe carrying some damage. But here comes Jesse Francisco to the inside, and he's going to make that move up to 2nd around Noah Belleville. We'll see if the 41 can fight it back around the outside. He's going to go for it and gets the nose in to the wall out of turn number 4. But now Francisco can dive the inside of the corner. Belleville dives the outside much more effectively, carries the momentum around the top, and he's going to lead again into turn number 3. But now Francisco has a short line, might be able to keep it full throttle here with these conditions. Still can't quite clear. This is very tight racing between the two of them. Let's hope it doesn't end in tears. And unfortunately for these two, they are letting Santos run away once again as he pulls out a 1.6 second lead. Belleville finally gets clear, and now Christina Ryan, it looks like, might try and fight her way back through. She does get the move done up into 3rd, and Jesse Francisco shuffled down into the 4th position after such a strong defense in the previous couple of laps. We'll see whether Colin McDonough can get that move done now as we head into and towards the final 40 laps of action here at Gateway.
On the one hand, drivers finally have the race, the space that they need to race. On the other hand, with so many cautions coming out, you almost just get the sense that, relatively speaking, we've been racing for quite a while. We expect a lot of these races to sit under the 1 hour mark, which we've just crossed here, and we still have 40 laps to go because of such a plethora of cautions. Now, I think Edson Santos has also decided to start really putting the hammer down at the right time, knowing that there's less than half the field remaining. There's, what, 9 cars running in this race right now? It's the perfect time for Santos to get away because the remaining drivers have that space to not crash.
Yeah, 9 cars still out on the racetrack, and unfortunately, there's damage to Elias Flores, who is running about half a second down per lap here. And so really only 8 cars in contention when we look at it that way. But it's a very close fight for second, and the more that these drivers duel behind, the easier it becomes for Edson to run away. Gap now extends to 2 seconds at the front of the field as Christina Ryan has to defend from Jesse Francisco.
Second through fourth bunched up, the rest of the field giving each other that space to exist. Noah Belleville snakes down the racetrack and waits for Christina Ryan to give chase. Jesse Francisco gives up the position, and now that allows Colin McDonough to get a bit closer into that top 5 range. McDonough in the number 39 is up 9 places from where he started, and it has to be said that rookie Jason Duckworth continues to impress, currently up 13 places from where he started this race.
It's a great run from Duckworth. You see McDonough now getting that move on Francisco, trying to run the inside, but I think there's a little bit of dirty air ahead from Christina Ryan that will let the 38 move back out in front. But a number of drivers up a huge amount of positions. Christina Ryan up 14 from where she started, playing a very patient race here. Nicholas Pressey, of course, up 5, as is Noah Belleville. But up at the front of the field, no change for Edson Santos, as McDonough is going to kick off this final pit stop cycle. 35 laps left to go, and 39 wants to try and get some clean air.
So now that we're in the final run to the end here, Liv, if you're the driver, you know that you've got what you need. There's no more excuses. You either have the tools to get it done or you don't. It's that simple. Now, if it's you, driver, tell me, do you want as much fuel in the car as possible for the rest of this race, or are you just going to keep it, you want to run out as soon as you cross that line?
You want to have the car as light as possible. You really feel the fuel weight in these cars. The fuel weighs, a solid maybe 8% of what the car as a whole does. And so you really find that benefit as you're slowing down for turn 1 and then getting back on the power out of 2. You really find that benefit in having a light car. But I like what McDonough's done here, is expecting this race to now go green to the end. And I think that's why you pull the trigger, find that clean air, and hope that you can make some real advantage of it before the rest of the field comes in. And Christina Ryan's going to respond.
Ryan now decides to come in as well. She's up 13 places, and she's going to give up all of that ground. So now Tucker Sawyer moves into 5th. Nick Pressey is in 4th, and he starts to inch out in this championship battle that we have continued to mention day after day. But that's what is pressing at the moment. That's what we want to put our attention to for the remainder of this campaign, is just how good is he going to be throughout the rest of the season, because consistency, Carmen, and we know this, is key.
Yeah, and this is the real question mark, because we do not know what the rest of the season will hold. We have such huge changes coming to the car and to the series for the final 9 rounds. This is where you really try and bank everything you can, because it feels like a regulation change and the entire pecking order could be shuffled, and Pressey wants to try and bank as much of that advantage as possible. But is he going to respond to Christina Ryan as she makes that pit stop now with 30 laps to go. You want to have the fresh tyres for the end if there's a caution, but you want to have the track position. And right now, Christina's going to try and fight back for that right now, so that when the pit stops finish out, she moves ahead of the 94 and the 19.
Let's go back a step here briefly. You mentioned that it's almost like a regulations change. It is a regulations change. The formula will change, will it not, with this new car?
Yeah, we just don't know exactly how differently it will be and how much will transfer from the skills of the current build, which again we've had for about 3 years with very little change. Twitter Sawyer will file into pit lane and nearly finds the barriers to the inside there. But we really don't know. We're going to find out next week when we get our hands on it. And immediately the work will begin for those next races. As a reminder, we head over to Kentucky in 2 weeks' time. So it's going to be about working out that big oval package very quickly. And then we go to Ohio and Michigan to round out the races before that late summer break, with 6 rounds to go after we come back.
Laps are winding down here. We're on lap 123 of our scheduled 150 laps in this event, and the majority of drivers have completed their final pit stops. Edson Santos through 5th place. Elias Flores have not pitted any later than lap 92. That's Nick Pressey that pitted on that 92nd lap. If he were to go to the end of this race, it would be at least 48 laps of distance. Is that even possible?
No, I don't think we're expecting anyone to try and make it to the end here, other than the ones that have made this stop under green. The question just becomes, how long does the rest of the field wait? I think there's an argument here that Edson especially is going to trust his current pace and stay out, because he saw that he got to the lead by running this exact strategy. And I think he's going to want to try and do that again in this final run. He's going to want to be the last one down on pit lane. Although he might be running out of fuel quite soon, but he stayed out as other cars behind pit under caution.
If you just tuned in, it's been quite the eventful race. 3 or 4 cautions in total tonight. I think I've lost count. Maybe we're up in the 5, 6, 7 range. Who knows? But 20 plus cars started this race tonight, and we've got 9 remaining. And Colin McDonough is that 9th car, 1 lap down. Looking at our upcoming races here, of course, we're at Gateway tonight, but in the other non-IndyCar competitions on ABN Studios, the next gen cars, the A2 Cup, will be racing at Kansas June 8th, 7 p.m. right here on ABN Studios. How about the little bit of Winston Cup flavor with the Winstel Cup, also June 8th, kicking off 45 minutes after that next gen race. The HDL Cup Series is going to be racing at Watkins Glen the night after that, and then High Octane. The Gen 6 cars live. Is that right? Is that High Octane there? Going to be on the 14th?
I'm not sure, but whatever it is, Homestead is a fantastic track for racing. You are not going to want to miss that one. As, of course, we do take that 1 week break to let everyone relearn these cars. As we've had, it looks like Noah Belleville down on pit lane. But Elias Flores, who's been managing that damage all race long, maybe had a little bit of a spin coming off pit lane. We are going to stay green. Let's have a look at exactly what's happened to the 99, who we know was carrying a lot of damage from earlier on in the competition.
Flores looks like he's just blinking in and out of existence there, and it could just be, no, he spins on cold tires coming out of the pits. And Flores is still out on the racetrack despite having that minor spin. It's good to see the drivers still at least trying. But of course, in a race like this, if you can stick around and survive, you may just end up collecting maximum points.
Yeah, and crucially stayed off the racing surface there and did not bring out the caution, as we now just have 1 car out on the racetrack. It is Nicholas Pressey, who is extended all the way into the final 20 laps of the race. Edson Santos covered off the stop from Noah Belleville, who is under immense pressure now from Christina Ryan, who stopped about 10 laps ago. This is most of the pit stop cycled out now, and you see that Ryan with that early pit stop has gained massively as Carmen Sienna back out trying to collect some laps. She's currently running down in the 10th position with 29 laps in arrears to the rest of the field. Tucker Sawyer having to fight with Jason Duckworth for 6th place here. That pit cycle has not worked out for the number 19 and is well behind the 8 ball here, although we'll see where Pressey cycled back into this when he stops within the final. We're just 16 laps from the end. Pressey's staying out. I don't think he can make it, but you've got to think if you're in the car here, you're starting to panic and wondering whether he can get to the end or if a caution could come out and trap the entire field a lap down.
Edson Santos went green, 24.68. Last time around, Pressey went 25.12. So right now, Santos is not gaining enough time to catch up to Pressey. And at the same time, I mean, Santos is also, well, what's happened here is that Nick Pressey?
He's gone.
That's Nick Pressey.
He went towards pit road, but
he's
didn't
missed
judge
it.
right. He's coming. I'm not sure if this is going to be a penalty for the pit entry. Let's have another look at what happened for the 94 on the way in, but this is going to hurt his overcut strategy here. We'll go.
Let's have a look,
board.
Liv. So coming out of turn 2 here, you're going to see Pressey just goes way too hot into turn number 3. Keep an eye on the revs there. Goes in too hot. He misjudges that. You see he puts the front left tire into the grass there, and he saves it through his skill alone, through that raw skill. He saved that, but it could have been way more disastrous for Pressey. However, that is 100% driver error, and certainly not what not what any of us were expecting.
Yeah, and Pressey actually tried to recover that. He unchecked the tires, decided to go for a fuel-only stop to finish out the race in the hopes that he would recover some of that time. But he cycled out into 7th place, only ahead of Colin McDonough on the lead lap, and so is going to lose out on points to Tucker Sawyer, who runs in the 5th position, and of course Christina Ryan, who is currently making up that final spot on the podium. Tucker is being pressured here still by Jason Duckworth in the number 73, and I'm sure right now Pressey is Duckworth's biggest fan, because this would deny the 19 some points he desperately needs in the championship fight.
137 laps about to be completed, and Edson Santos now has a stranglehold on the rest of the field, barring a late race caution. Noah Belleville, last time around, was 1/10 of a second quicker than Edson Santos, and he's going to need a lot more than that to make up these 2 seconds in these next 11 laps. Belleville, although running a part-time schedule, never disappoints. I mean, and you know this, Liv, but anybody that hasn't seen Noah Belleville race, this is perfectly expected of him. Now, he's also clawing in the time, but that last time around, Liv, he was only 3/100ths quicker. Belleville may very well be racing for second with these final 10 laps.
Yeah, and is doing a great job extending that gap. You can see the work on the wheel. If I'm not mistaken, Belleville may still be driving on a controller. I'm not sure if that has changed since we last saw him, or at least I last saw him on the racetrack. But if that's the case, then he's doing a fantastic job clawing it back, although does scrape the wall ever so slightly out of turn 2 there, is maybe feeling the pressure in these final 10 as Edson Santos pulls away, and Christina Ryan, it seems like, may have fended off a charge from Jesse Francisco, the 38 now falling back by 1.2 seconds.
Tucker Sawyer begins to falter further and further. 4/10 is that gap, and every point matters as Jason Duckworth gets closer still. 3/10 the gap with 7 to go this time by. If you're Jason Duckworth, driver, where are you going to make your move?
I think that the best place is to set up the momentum to run offset from the car ahead here, as you see through turns 3 and 4, build the run down into turn 1, and then try and catch the other car by surprise. You see Duckworth running a lane higher, can't quite get to the outside here, but this is where the setup happens. You really need to get the move done in turn 1, and the rest of the racetrack is just how you get there, running a good couple lanes higher here through turns 3 and 4. You just can't seem to get within those 0.2 of a second, where you need to be a lot closer to make a move stick here in the opening half of the racetrack.
Duckworth now really just trying to get under that wing, and there he goes into turn number 3 to the left-hand side. Jason Duckworth will put the left side tires all the way to the rumble strip. Drift up the racetrack. Tucker Sawyer just enough of a presence to prevent that slide job out of turn number 4. 4 laps to go this time by, and the 73 car now looking to extend that advantage on the inside, and Tucker Sawyer takes that away.
Yeah, if you're side by side into turn number 1, then the outside line is just going to be so dominant. It's why you've really got to make the move stick, because if you get the run, you have to then commit high and try and get to the outside of the car on exit. You see it again from Duckworth, trying to build the momentum, but it's just so easy to defend if you're Sawyer. You see that move coming, you stick up against the wall, don't leave any room for Duckworth to get there, and you can just defend it into turn 1. I think Sawyer might just about hold on to the top 5 here.
It's going to be a great move for Tucker Sawyer if he does, but of course Jason Duckworth is not, that little R doesn't mean he's not skilled enough to take the position away from Tucker Sawyer. What we're expecting here from Jason Duckworth is nothing but an all-out attack, and Sawyer needs to play that defense. He's got to box out and hope that he sticks it all together in these final laps here. White flag will be in the air next time by. If I'm Jason Duckworth, I'm hoping that I get a shot into 3.
Yeah, and you saw went low, did manage to offset Tucker Sawyer a little bit. Doesn't quite have the run here into turn 3 to get to the inside like we saw before. Is instead going to try and rip high. Edson Santos has collected the white flag up ahead. This is maybe the last chance for Duckworth to set the move up. Does he have an opportunity to look low? No, he's going to continue high, but Sawyer is just going to block that move off. But at the front of the field, crucially, a dominant performance from Edson Santos. He is going to take the race win here at Gateway as we look back at the battle for 5th place, and Duckworth cannot get it done. Your final top 5 will be Edson Santos in the race lead, Noah Belleville in 2nd, Christina Ryan will round out your podium with Jesse Francisco ahead of Tucker Sawyer, who does fend off for that 5th place. So we bring you our final results here at the Worldwide Technology Raceway for the St. Louis 300. Edson Santos with a great run to win the race from the pole position, played the strategy to perfection ahead of a great run from Noah Belleville coming home in second, and Christina Ryan, another podium on this season. Jesse Francisco will come home in fourth ahead of Tucker Sawyer, who fends off Jason Duckworth for that fifth position. The 73 will come home in sixth ahead of Nicholas Pressey. That final pit stop mistake denied him the top five. And then Colin McDonough and Elias Flores, your final finishers from tonight's race. Carmen Sienna, with a lot of damage, will come home in 10th. And then the order gets a little bit shuffled out as we look at all of our retirements here. Eli Sasek and Lily Sharp not out of the race early, unfortunately. Then we have Ben McDonald, Bailey Thompson, Ben Lawson, Evan Eisenman, all wiped out in those caution exchanges in the latter half. And then Matthias Marcamini, Vitor Diem, Michael Deitch, Mo Perry, Jason Scott, and Craig Yore all failing to reach the finish in tonight's race. It doesn't look like we're going to have a chance to talk to our race winner here, unfortunately. But I'd love to pull in, first of all, and have a chat with our third place finisher in tonight's race. Christina, talk us through that one, up from 17th place at the start and finishing all the way up in third. How was that one for you?
It was a lot of fun. The start of the race was a really... I screwed up qualifying pretty bad. So I knew what was lying ahead of me, and I knew there would probably be some calamity at the start. There wasn't, which is a testament to how the driving standards have gotten over the years. It got a little hairy in the mid portion, but yeah, I was like mix 8, mix 5 for like the whole first 50 laps or so to see how far I could push it. Turned out to not really matter as the cautions came through, but man, once we got to go racing, dude, I had so much fun. I mean, that was a blast. Especially in the mid pack, we were like 3 wide, sometimes 4 wide on restarts. It was really, really entertaining, and just kind of found myself relying on my experience. And you know, we're done with this package after this week, so I'm really glad we got one more really good run, and gained a decent amount of points. I don't know how much I'm really in the conversation for it, but no, I had a blast. Super, super fun.
Yeah, and of course we had to move this race forward to allow everyone to get acquainted with the new car next week. But as we do say goodbye to this sort of 2022 iteration of the Dallara IR18, I'd love to know what from these last 3 years has been your favorite moment in these cars. I feel like I have a suspicion as to what it might be, but I'd love to hear from you.
Obviously you want to say winning the championship, because that's always, one that sticks with you. But I'll be honest, as much fun as that season was and how dominant we were, I've been enjoying this season more. It's been so much good racing. There's only been a few bonehead moments, and the way that you grow through these cars and race with people that you've been racing for years, and you get to fight with all these faces, and everybody's got so much respect for each other on the racetrack. It's a rare thing. I feel like it's getting more and more rare, especially in official races and in other leagues. A lot of people like to get animosity, and there's drivers that make me scratch my head. But overall, I think the community here is super healthy, and I didn't come into the season thinking about a championship. We're kind of in the window where we might be able to pull it off if things go our way like today did. Coming in without any pressure, having already won the championship, just showing up every week and having a blast with the gang, I don't know. I've been loving it. The fact that we can just throw moves like that all day and get away with it, it's really made me start to love this car.
Well, enjoy the week off. Enjoy getting to grips with the new one, as I'm sure we all will. And before we see you in a couple of weeks' time at Kentucky, is anything you want to say to the fans at home? Now is the perfect time. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Glad to get back on the podium. It's been a couple of weeks. We had some really hard-fought races, but just weren't quite on the top 3 the last couple of weekends. So good to be able to thank everybody for cheering for me every week. I know a lot of you still root for me, whether we're running 17th or 3rd. We did both today, so happy with that. Again, shout out to you all for putting it on. I use you guys for a little bit of recon throughout the race, actually, and it comes in handy quite often. So thanks for being the driver's choice of Intel during the event, and running everything, putting it on, and making us all look good. Since we're going to lose replays for a lot of tracks here, it'll be fun to go back and watch these in 5 years. And yeah, shout out to Twitch and all that. I haven't really streamed lately, but everybody there that follows, and big shout out to Carmen for putting it all together and putting it on. And congrats to Edson and Noah. They drove a fantastic race.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time.
Yep, see ya.
And I believe now we do have Rick James standing by with Noah Belleville, your second place finisher for tonight's race.
No, a fantastic drive tonight. Really, Edson Santos had one of the most dominant cars we've seen not only tonight, but at most oval tracks. But the important thing, did you have fun?
I had a blast. That was a ton of fun.
Good, man. I'm glad you had a great time out there. Is there anything else you could have put in that car to catch Santos? That guy was on a rail without taking anything away from your car as well, but both of your cars were hooked up. What more did you need to get to Santos?
I don't know. I don't know what I needed. I was playing around with roll bars and playing around with weight checker, and I could match his pace. I couldn't catch him. That whenever we cycled through, we were like 2 seconds apart, and we stayed there the last like 40 laps. And even like, pit stops, you put a lot of emphasis on getting in the pits, that's where you can make up a lot of time. I was flying into that sucker, and we still came out of the pits 2 seconds apart. So I don't know what else I needed, but I got it figured out about, 50 laps into the race. And after that, I was making moves. I was having fun.
Yeah, you looked like you were really slicing and dicing out there. And then the racing obviously opened up after a lot of drivers had DNF'd out of the race as well. Looking forward at this ABN schedule here, obviously we've got Kentucky coming up. We've got Michigan coming up as well. Are we going to see you participate there?
Kentucky, probably not. Michigan, that one's going to be wild. So I might do it. We'll just see what my schedule looks like whenever we get to Michigan, but I might do it. But yeah, I wanted to do this race because obviously it's my home track, but I'm also going to this race next week when IndyCar comes here. So like I kind of wanted to, see what I'm looking forward to, and that was a ton of fun.
Good, man. That's the important thing. I'm glad you had a good time, man. Congratulations on second, and we'll see you soon.
Yep, thank you, Rick.
All right, Liv, is that all we got today? Is that all we got from the peanut gallery out on the racetrack?
It sure is. Edson Santos, always the quiet killer at the front of the field, takes the pole position, takes the win, and I think all that needed to be said was done out there on the racetrack. So big congratulations to the number 20, of course, putting on such a strong show all race long. But for us, it's time to kick back and enjoy another week off while the rest of the field, to be fair, myself as well, scramble to get used to what is going to be a very exciting update. Not just the Dallara IR18, but also very exciting on the oval side, those new Gen 4 machines as well. I cannot wait to get my hands on those.
It's going to be an interesting update to this iRacing season. It's going to be a fun second half of this IndyCar season as well. We already kicked off into full swing. Then the Gen 4s, obviously, we got Moldy Muskrat, a.k.a. Noah Belleville, for those that know. He's going to be running that Gen 4 series, and hopefully we get some other transplants as well. But Thursday Night Thunder will come back in the fall with that new car. I'm super excited for a lot of upcoming updates in this third season. So fans at home, make sure to follow us on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, whatever you got. Get on the socials at ABN Studios, at Rick James TV as well. Keep up with us. Stay tuned for all the latest updates, and we will see you in a couple of weeks here as we take another break. Until that race, everybody, please stay safe, take care of each other, and we will see you all around the corner.